Hi, it's a real joy to talk to you today about this whole idea of unity. We've entered 2025, and for so many people, they are afraid of the unknown. They don't know what the new year will bring. They don't understand what the economy will do. They don't understand what the political situation will be. They're not quite sure about the major superpowers and what they will do, and how the economics is going to play out. Well, Jesus was concerned about times like this. And in John 17, one of the things he prays for, he prays that those who will come to him through his disciples would be one. He prayed that we would be one, that you and I would be one. Now, what do we mean one? We are still individuals, but yet he prayed that we would be one. And the idea is that we grow together, we know each other, and we show to the world what God has done in us and through us. First thing you've got to do with your family, with your team, with your group, with your church, with your business, you've got to know the people that you work with. Get to know them. Isn't it interesting that in a small island, 7 by 21, we've got several thousand churches, and yet very few pastors actually meet together on a weekly or monthly basis and sit and talk and say, tell me what's happening in your life. How's your family? How's your wife? How's your children? How's your husband? How is your neighborhood? How is your business going? What can I pray for you about? See, a lot of us don't know each other. The term know in the Greek New Testament implies a penetration. It means going out. The word gnosko means that you got to get into that person. They got to get into you. And you don't get into someone's life unless they get into your life. It is a mutual sharing. You don't have to, I got so many weird texts. I mean, the texts were okay and the click and paste were okay, but they were simply things that people saw and they click and send it to me. But you're not sharing your heart. I came through the Christmas, read into Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, New Year's Day, and never really heard from some people. One of the things we got to do with a group of people that's on your team, whether it's your organization, whether it's your church, whether it's your family, and it may even be outreach or a project, you have to find a way to come together where you can sit and talk. The knowing is important. Knowing is when you have a shared experience and you are able to share together what has happened to you, what you have gone through, what you are struggling with, and what you need prayer with. Remember, knowing involves being able to touch on all of those bases. Secondly, we've got to understand this business of growing. Remember, it's knowing, growing, showing. Growing is moving out of that shared experience to planning an event together, where we can share in seeing the same movie, share in having the same discussion, share in having a meal. See, growing means that you share in feeding not only the mind, the body, but your emotions. A game, a picnic out on the beach, or a walkathon, or whatever we do, so that we get a chance to share with each other. We meet and get split into small groups. Now, I'm not saying that to know people you have to get up in a meeting and tell all your private business. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that with people that you know, you ought to be able to sit down with them and say, one-on-one or one-on-two at the most, and say, hey guys, let me tell you what's happened to me last week. I got robbed. I got held up. My car broke down. I got a demand letter from the bank. They're about to take my house or my building. You see, you got to have someone that you can sit down with and tell them, not because you just want to talk your business, but because you belong together. Remember, the first thing you got to get across to your family, to your team, to your church, to your organization is we belong together. It's not me against you and you against me and us against them. No, not a bunch of little cliques. No, we belong together. We belong to one another. And so that way we have to know one another. We got to grow together. And growing means you spend time in prayer, spending time brainstorming, spending time dreaming, visioning what the future will hold, talking about what we might become in years, and later in this year. What do we do about mid-year? So that you sit down with people in the beginning of the year. You talk about what you want to achieve. Then in the middle of the year, well, how have we done? And then About September, you sit down again and say, well, look, how's it going? What can I pray for you about? And then again, toward the end of the year, sit down and say, let's celebrate how we did. You've got to set some goals. Remember, goals must be measurable, observable, and quantifiable. Don't just say, we want to be great. It's too vague. Just saying something that's very vague, like we want to be great, we want to be good, we want to be strong. Well, how do you measure that? You see, it's got to be quantifiable, it's got to be measurable, it's got to be observable. And then finally, notice the third area. You have know, grow, and then show. Show. Remember, love is not what you say. Love is not the language that you speak all the time. Love is the essence of your behavior. We got to look out for one another when we show to the world that we belong together. And imagine, now, we need to show the world that we are together. Imagine what it would be like every so often you had a gathering of your group. Your family had a family gathering. Everybody wore the same T-shirts, names printed on it. And you were showing to the world, hey, we're unified. Or a church, or a number of churches, even better, a group of churches get together. And they say, let's have a march. Let's have a demonstration. We're going to march through town or march through the community. Let the world know we are together. We know each other. We're growing together. We're holding each other accountable. We are going to show to the world that we are strong, that we belong to one another, that we know each other. I mean, think about it. When last have you actually called a minister friend and said, how are you doing? When last have you called anybody and said, what can I pray for you about? Usually during the first few weeks of January, first month, I spend time calling people that I haven't seen in a long time. And then you discover all that you didn't know. You discover all the things that you were not a part of. And so it was good to be able to sit down and talk with them. I was able to talk with my friend who is thousands of miles away and say, listen, man, we haven't talked in over a year. Let me know what's happening. And he was able to tell me how his ministry is going, what's happening in his family, what their plans are and goals are. And likewise, I could share the same thing. This is how the world can see and know that we belong to each other. We hold each other accountable. And you cannot hold someone accountable if you don't know what they're doing. Now, one of the reasons why many people don't like to be held accountable is they want to be able to do what they want to do and get away with it. Listen, if you're doing something wrong, you need to have someone close enough to you to say, hey, man, you could do this better than that. There's no reason for you to do this. And you need to have people in your life who could call you out and hold you accountable. Who holds you accountable? Who can you go to and say, how am I doing? And get some honest feedback from someone who is not a part of what you normally do. So you've got to have that. So as we talk about this new year, knowing, growing, and showing, they depend on each other. And I believe God is depending on all of us to go out and show the world what it's like to really be one. Remember, when you're one, you're strong. But when you are divided, you are weak. Everybody's talking about diversity. Oh, listen. While you talk about empowering women, while you talk about reaching the youth, while you talk about reaching the drug-addicted people, while you talk about reaching the senior citizens, at some point, you have to come together and be one. You have to be one family. No pun intended, but you need to have one unity and one faith and one grace covering you and one stand, one foundation, one God and one Father. Ephesians 4. And go into this year. Yes, have all the diversity you need, but make sure you have those persons in your life, those people and those groups who can call upon you at any time and say, how are you doing? That friend who can call you from halfway around the world and say, hey, what's happening? What's going on in the Bahamas? What's going on in Chicago? What's happening in Atlanta? What's going on in Great Britain? And to be able to pray, and that is what Jesus meant by, I pray that they would be one, even as we are one. Let's be one this year. Let's work on that as best we can. God bless you.